Hi there, Hamish Conway here, and with me is Sebastian Hargraves, and welcome to TACOS Tuesday, the place for the best Amazon ads tactics and strategies to help you grow profitably on Amazon. And today we're discussing a topic that's particularly relevant right now for us as we're onboarding a number of new clients with Amazon ads. And as part of this process, we obviously are getting clear on the objectives that the client and us, that we're working towards. And so therefore, this topic is how to set your Amazon ads objectives, because often this is like, while it sounds like a simple question, it's actually not very clear for a lot of people. So today we're going to help you get clear on what you want from your Amazon ads and why. Now, before we dive into that, I'd just like to let you know about 3 events that are coming up in October. If you're an Amazon vendor seller in Australia, we've got an event on the 24th of October, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. It's a vendor mastermind meetup, and we keep it deliberately quite small. But if you go to goSellGlobal.com/events or look in the knowledge section, you'll find that there. So that Melbourne one's on the 24th. We also have a Sydney one on Wednesday, the 30th of October, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And we're in Sydney there. And so the next day is actually also Amazon Ads Australia is having their first event on, was it 31st, which I think is a Thursday. And that'll be in the morning from 9 a.m. through to 1 p.m. So I'll put the link to that below because it's actually a weird, it's like events.bizaboo.com/633922. Anyway, they might need help with their advertising. making it easy. But anyway, if you're in Australia, relevant to you. If you're not in Australia, obviously not, unless you want to come and get on a plane. It's a nice spot in October, so you never know. That could be a good idea. Come and see us there. So that Amazon Ads event, we're exhibiting at that there. So looking forward to that. Anyway, we'll move on to the topic of the day. So now let's help you get clear on what you want from your Amazon ads and why that matters and why that's important. So we'll start off, Seb. Look, what are you noticing about brands when it comes to them actually knowing what they want or what their objectives are or what they should be? Like, what are you noticing when you're talking to brands?
Yeah, so a lot of the time when we're talking to brands, they're not clear on what their goals and objectives are, and I think a big chunk of it's because they haven't really done the work to work out, where each of their products fit, when it comes to Amazon specifically. And so, and that's surprising. So some of these brands that we work with, they're really big brands, and you would expect them to have, to sort of know where things are going, and what their objectives should be. But a lot of them don't. And a lot of them will have like account level objectives. And today we want to talk a little bit about why we think account levels are the wrong way to look at it and what the right way is.
Okay. What do you think it is that brands, because what is it that has it that brands don't fully understand what's happening? Do they think it looks simple on the outside, so we'll just treat it the same as Google and Meta, or what are you noticing? Like, what do you think it is about it?
Yeah, I think in the beginning it's because Amazon is a small part of their overall business, and so it just doesn't get the attention that it deserves. And then as it grows, they start to realize, like, oh no, this is becoming a much bigger part of our business. In some cases, it's the fastest growing channel for a lot of brands, not the biggest, but the fastest growing. And so I think because of that, it's managed, with team members that are doing a whole bunch of other things, and just not getting the attention and the strategy that it needs.
Yeah. And there's probably also a factor where they just don't actually know what good looks like. If all they've seen is just their account, then they don't know what good looks like, or they're just lacking some context. Do you think that would also be relevant?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So a lot of brands will come to us and say, what should my objectives be? Should they be this? Should they be that? And so, and it's because Amazon is a bit unique in its sense. They're used to looking at Facebook ads or Google ads and things like that, and Amazon has this whole organic piece to it that Facebook doesn't have, for example. And because of that, the metrics we use to measure things are different than what we would on something like Facebook and whatnot. So yeah, because of that reason, I think they get a little bit lost in okay, well, what is good then? Because I can't use Facebook as a benchmark, or my
Yeah.
Google as a benchmark.
Yeah. And that's I know before we were kind of coining the phrase like it's a lazy objective or lazy way to look at the objectives for Amazon ads. But I guess look, why is an account level objective a problem anyway? What's wrong?
Yeah, so
what's the problem?
Yeah, so the main reason that account level objective is a problem is because every product in a catalog is very different. For example, you might have a $200 product and a $10 product. Those have very, very different objectives, particularly when you're talking about advertising, because you can only afford to pay so much for your clicks on a $10, $20 product versus a $200 product has a lot more ability there. So by having account level objectives, you are applying the same rules across all of your products that should have very different objectives. The other reason that it's not good is it's confusing on when you're deciding to try and grow the account, where you should focus your time and energy.
Right. Yeah, that's an important one. It's like, when you do want to move the needle, you just don't know what levers to pull because it's too high level. Okay, so how do brands actually go about setting objectives for Amazon ads in the right way? What do they need to take into account?
Yeah, so the first thing you need to do is what you need to set up your product level objectives is you need your price, your what you're paying Amazon from your fees point of view, and your cost of goods. Now, depending on if you're a seller or a vendor, these will vary differently, of course. But once you have that, you should be able to work out your contribution margin, and that will give you a good indication of of what your break-even ACOS should be. Now, your break-even ACOS is your contribution margin divided by your sales price. So once you have your contribution margin, you should be able to work out what your break-even ACOS is. And just for anyone that's listening that doesn't know what ACOS is just your advertising cost of sale. So it's the efficiency of your advertising.
Yeah.
So once you have your break-even ACOS, then you should be able to work out your current ACOS, and then basically the difference is between your current ACOS, so where you currently sit, and where your break-even is the opportunity for you to seize. But that first part is about setting up, what my objectives should be.
Okay. So just to be clear for people tuning in on this, so when you say break-even ACOS, that means that you prepared to spend all of your GP contribution on getting a sale? So why would that make sense?
Well, most of the time it doesn't. But so you don't go all the way up.
You're
to
kind of going that's your kind of max. That's your maximum, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's right. You might set like I want to make 15% off every sale, so it's 15% lower than whatever my break-even ACOS is maybe what you would set as your objective. But sometimes you, on like a product launch or something like that, you might go above your break-even ACOS because you're trying to establish a product in a marketplace. So that's kind of a scenario where you would go higher than that because your objectives are very different, for a product launch.
Yeah. And again, the game is the building organic sales. So launching, you're prepared to pay to get ranking, so then you get more organic. Okay. All right. So that's like the inputs that we need initially to go right at a product level, understanding GP contribution at product level and then ACOS level. So then where to next from there?
Yeah. So I suppose, once you've got that basic information, then it's about like getting clear on what your objectives are. You needed that information first before you could set up your objectives. So now that you've got that, you can go, okay, what would I be willing to do to grow my brand? Sometimes you'd be like, okay, I'm willing to, increase my ACOS, which is increasing your ad spend on some of these products because I have good margin on those. And you might experience where you actually make less profit. You will make less profit per unit in general, but you'll make overall more profit because you'll just be moving more units. So kind of once you have that product level data, you can then decide on, okay, I'm willing to spend more on these product ranges because they have the margin to support it. And then you want to, come up with a target ACOS that's affordable for your product. So that's where you work out, like, if your bids are aligned with your objective.
Yeah. Okay. And because I mean, like all brands want to make, grow sales and grow sales profitably, right? That's the overall target. So, um, I get actually something's just coming to mind for me as well, right? So we talk about account level metrics, and so if people are looking at account level from looking at their ACOS or the inverse of that being their ROAS, and obviously we're called TACOS Tuesday here because we believe that TACOS matters, particularly at that overall account level. So what about at a product level? ACOS is obviously one of the measures that you're looking at and setting targets. What other metrics are you looking at a product level?
Yeah, so TACOS is one of them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The reason we don't use TACOS to set objectives is because TACOS doesn't actually affect um, the advertising side. It's the overall
Yeah.
revenue piece.
Yeah.
So we use ACOS because ACOS is the direct correlation for advertising. But TACOS is definitely one of them because that will tell you the impact. So let's say you've decided that you want to move your ACOS up, which is going to increase your spend closer to your break even. You would want to then very much want to monitor your TACOS to see if it's increasing and by how much, and and also in relation to your overall revenue. So if your revenue grew and your TACOS grew, that might be acceptable. But if your TACOS went up and your revenue didn't grow, that would be a problem, and you need to do something about it.
Yeah.
The other one would be conversion rate. Conversion rate by product is going to be really important because that's going to affect what your ACOS ends up being.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother topic, right? For another day around a conversion rate. So what about then? So you're setting your ACOS, and then what about from a bid point of view? How does that come into play here?
Yeah, so your bids will be based on your product price. So that's why we talk about setting up ACOS objectives for different products based on different prices. Like I said, you're going to have a lower bid for a product that's between $10 and $20 versus a product that is $200. So your bid is going to be reflective of that. You're going to have a much lower bid on a cheap product and a much higher bid on a more expensive product.
Yeah, and this is the whole structure part, right? About actually splitting out different product groups that make sense for them to be in a group. If it's not an individual product level, at least they're in a group. Because I guess that's the question, right? If you've got hundreds or even thousands of SKUs, like how do you go about doing product level objectives then?
Yeah, and I think this is probably the biggest pushback on product level objectives because some brands will come to us and be like, we've got thousands of SKUs, we can't go and set up product level objectives, but you can group them by two ways. You can group the by the type of products they are, but my favorite way to group products is by the type of order value, the price point they are. So if you have a whole range of products that are between 10 and 20, you could group that group together, and 20 to 30 and 30 to 40, etc. And you'd group them by their different groupings so that then you could make objectives just on that group rather than individual ones. And then when you're looking at the data, you can look at the data not at that account level, just one step down, which is these groupings that you've made.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. That's how to make it work. And I guess linked to this is budgets, because there's two schools. One school is, this is our budget. We've got our, $10,000 a month, and that's all. So I just want to ask a question on that. And then you got those that are prepared to increase it as results grow. But how do you do product targeted, product level objectives if you've got a fixed budget? Like how do you make all that work to maximize your investment? What are you looking for? I guess,
Yeah, so I suppose for budgets, normally I say this all the time that advertising makes the good better and makes what's bad worse. So with your budgets, if you do have limited, you'd focus on those groups or those products that are your best sellers, because advertising is going to heighten and enhance those groups and those products versus trying to get visibility to everything. Just focus on the ones that are already selling well, and you're using advertising to enhance that.
Yeah, that's That's good. Okay. Well, what about if what about seasonal aspects here at a product level? We're obviously coming into Q4 as we do this, and for some product ranges, this is going to be peak time. So how do you deal with that? And then on the other side, when it falls back, how do you deal with seasonality?
Yeah, so there's two kind of ways to approach it. Like the first is to accept that during the seasonal periods of time, it's going to be harder to get conversions because people are there's just not as many people shopping around, and it is demand at that time. So making adjustments to your ACOS objectives when the season is in and out is important. Obviously, when it's in, you can afford to have more spend and put more in a higher, closer to your break even, because you're going to maximize that period. The inverse is true of that too. When you're out of season, you're going to accept less. You're going to lower your ACOS and have a lower ACOS objective, because you just not going to have that that amount of conversion that you would normally have during that peak season.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So product level versus account level. Anything else to add to that, to the conversation we've had so far?
No, I mean, other than to say, like, we've got a really good process that we use to do this, and I think that one of the other things that just recently that's come up by doing this is a lot of brands have realized that their Amazon fees are incorrect. And so by going through this process, you'll find out that you'll see your Amazon fees and you'll be like, that represents a lot of my sales price. And then when you go look at how Amazon's charging you for those fees, you actually find out that they're measuring your product incorrectly. Maybe they're making it bigger than it should be, or whatever it is. And so this process, it helps on a lot of levels. And one of those levels is, just making sure that you're not getting erroneous fees from Amazon just on, silly things like they've measured the packaging wrong or something like that.
So it's good. I mean, it really just comes down to, and this is a lot of the whole Amazon game. It is about having that awareness, and the details matter. Details matter from the margin point of view, and then details matter from how you set up your Amazon ads and the right campaign structure. And so you're being efficient and effective with that. You're not wasting ad spend, and then you know which levers to pull in terms of when to scale things up or when to pull them down. So it's I guess at the beginning, again, we use that word, setting lazy objectives, because that's fine. No one's going to get into trouble for that. But all that does is just limits growth, right? If growth is an objective, then you just don't have the visibility on how you're actually going to grow. And so that's why we get more granular and suggest more complex structure. Well, you can call it complex, but it's logical. But it is just making that effort to actually structure things the right way, so you've got options, and then you've just got clarity on the objectives, and then you find that there's actually way more opportunity there than what you might have realized.
Yeah, and it's a one and done thing too. It's not like it's not a one and done. You do want to keep revisiting it, but it's not like you have to do it, all the time. This is something you don't have to review, that often. So it's like, do the work one time, and it's going to make a big difference.
And then obviously the optimizing process happens with bid adjustments. That's happening every day. And then budget allocations can shift monthly depending on what's working to make it work. Okay. All right. And again, if you are curious now, you go, well, actually, I don't really know what our Amazon ads objectives are, or I think we might be in the lazy camp. Then it would be a good opportunity to do an Amazon ads audit, where Seb can have a look at what's happening in your ads account, looking back over the last 60 days, looking at that structure, looking at how budget's being utilized, is there wasted spend, the balance of ad types, etc., and looking at, is there gaps in the catalog that are being completely missed. So if you want to do that, have a look at, or go to gosellglobal.com, look at the services, go to the advertising page there, and you can see there's a video there from Seb, and there's example reports, and you can book a call with Seb there. So go have a look at that. And people are finding this really, really useful, and even just upping their education and understanding about what's possible for you, even if you don't end up working with us and beyond that, but even just that piece is incredibly valuable aspect to be looking at. So, all right, Seb, so I think we'll leave it at that. So hopefully people now are getting clearer that it's not just looking at the high level, big numbers, but you need to get into that product level, more granular detail of where you're setting objectives. And look, and the reality is for brands, there's that catalog is always the 80-20 or even the 10-90, where there's 10% of the products that are driving a lot of the result, and you can't ignore that. You've got to take that into consideration on where you are going to put the weight of budget and behind things, and that naturally is at a SKU level, at a product level, not a overall level. So just makes it more transparent. Great. Okay. And again, just at the top of the show, we mentioned about the Sell Global's Amazon Vendor Mastermind meetups happening in Melbourne on the 24th of October. That's a Thursday, and then also Wednesday, the 30th of October in Sydney. And then the following day, the 31st of October, the Amazon Ads event. So have a look in the show notes for that, or if you're watching this on YouTube, in the description there. And thanks so much for joining TACOS Tuesday. And please subscribe and like and share and comment and all of that there. That'll help spread the show. So thanks very much. And thanks, Seb, for your expertise again today. Much appreciated.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Bye.